Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by...
When Signs and Displays Direct was launched 15 years ago, it featured a complete line of banners and stands, product displays, and more. Today, the company is known as SDD and is the industry leader in turnkey, no-inventory POP programs. SDD has expanded into branding programs for both corporate and private label, as well as consulting services for retail showroom design and more. Visit sdd-us.com. That's sdd-us.com. All right, it's time once again for Music Night at the Majestic. With us tonight, Andy Watts. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. You know, when I told folks that this week's guest was going to be a blues guitarist, I asked him, where do you think he's from? And I got the usual Chicago, Memphis, New Orleans. And I said, how about just outside of Tel Aviv? And nobody could believe me. So, and yet, here you are.
Thanks for having me. You know, Tel Aviv is like a suburb of Chicago.
I go there for breakfast all the time.
I hear you.
So tell you what, Andy, how did you come to play the blues? And why don't you tell us, first off, what's the music scene like around Tel Aviv?
Tel Aviv is the pulse of Israel, is where the things are happening, is the musical center of Israel. Most of my shows I do in the area of Tel Aviv. We also do shows in Jerusalem, of course, and in Haifa, which are the major cities in Israel. But Tel Aviv, that's where things are happening, without a doubt. Music scene there is lively. We have quite a few good venues. But since 11th of March, which was the last time I had a live show, we've been pretty much locked down or closed down, waiting for this corona to pass on.
That's pretty much the case everywhere.
Right. That's a global thing. And the only way we have to, good news, the vaccine is coming, and let's hope that things are going to start getting better and we can start tearing up the stages soon again.
To have life as it was would be a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So now, how did you come to play the guitar?
I listened to tuning into American blues station at an early age, around 12 years old. And that the blues really got me. And that made me to pick up a guitar. I had a friend of mine showing me the few basic chords, but I never studied. I don't read music, and I'm not particularly proud of that. I know that I'm probably breaking many rules, if there are any rules in music, but it works out for me. And I have been basically on the road of the blues ever since. And that's what I've been playing.
Tell me this, Andy, do you remember the first song that you heard that grabbed you and really struck an emotional chord with you?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think I heard in the beginning, listening to blues, I think one thing that made me wanna play guitar was at the very early on hearing All Along the Watchtower by Hendrix. I found that so intriguing and so out of the box, that sound, the beautiful sound coming out of the guitar. That was one of the things that I remember. That was one of the songs that really influenced me as a young teenager.
Well, I can definitely hear the Hendrix influence in your music, but you're not just influenced by traditional blues or Hendrix, because your music is kind of a combination of blues and rock and jazz and soul and psychedelia all wrapped up in one.
Oh yeah. You put it right. You hit it right on the head right there. That's true. Like Hendrix, he didn't want to be put in one specific box. Uh, I don't I don't want to be or don't I didn't choose to be put in a specific box either. I like to integrate blues, mix it up with a bit of rock and roll, psychedelic, bit jazzy, but fusing, flowing, bit chill. I like to have a musical journey, and that's what I had in mind, particularly on this album, Supergroove, that kicks off with the instrumental Supergroove, and the album is a ride. I wanted it to be a ride until we're landing and ending the album with Supernatural, which is a tribute to a big influence of mine, Mr. Peter Green, rest in peace.
Yeah, and you see, you can hear all those influences in there, and I have to say, Super Groove is appropriately named because throughout, you've got a great groove, that drives, the songs.
Oh yeah, I had that in mind. I wanted that's a riff I had in mind, and I had it with me for some time, and I wanted to add the horn section and get to have the B3 Hammond coming in, and it's a rocker. It's something that you kicks off a show with. And that was my intention of kicking off the album with that, and the influences that you have that you hear in this album, I'm sure you can hear some of this and some of that, but I'm not trying to copy paste any particular artist. I'm trying to integrate the influence, and I'm letting these artists to inspire me. I'm not trying to, how you say, nick any particular lick and put it in, but you do that without even thinking about it, I presume, because it's so part of your playing when what you're doing without thinking about it.
Right. Well, when a musician or a songwriter, is an influence on you, and you're very passionate about what they did or do, that's obviously going to show up in your music. The
Yeah,
key
sure.
is to taking that influence and then building on it to where you don't sound like a tribute band or a cover band. You hear the influence, but yet this new music is yours.
True that. True that. That's a very good point. I, for example, rather hear anything refreshing, new, original, a different aspect of a song than someone who probably would know to play Hotel California or Stay with the Heaven note for note, exact a copy. I mean, that's been done. If someone do it, it would be more interesting if he puts his own personal touch to it, put a more artistic appeal. I think that's also, I think, in today most people are looking for artists. They're looking for something that is a bit different, that found his own wavelength somehow, his own identity.
Well, as I've said on the show before, when it comes to covers, if you can't bring something new to it, just leave it alone.
Oh, most definitely, most
Yeah.
definitely. Copy paste is just not gonna. It's just not gonna make it.
Right. Well, tell you, getting back to your influences, uh, on the blues side, in listening to you, I hear some BB King, some Albert King, obviously Peter Green in there. There's a Stevie Ray Vaughan touch to it as well, which is, since obviously Hendrix was, a huge influence for him, that's only natural. Who were some other guitarists that influenced you?
You mentioned pretty much the where you can say the ground zero of Albert King, Stevie Ray, Peter Green. I like Snowy White, which of course very influenced by Peter Green, for example. I think that Drew Walls, before the Eagles, when he had a band that I really personally think is a great rocker, James Gang out of Cleveland. That's really a version of Led Zeppelin from the United States, sort of. A lot of attitude. I like bands and guitarists with attitude, and that is something that also goes to sound. You hear a signature sound. I put a lot of emphasis on trying to get a good guitar sound on the album. That's very important. I think it starts with the sound, And then you also have to use the sound to say something and not to overplay, to have the self-confidence to let the music breathe and not to play every note in every scale, you know. And this is something that I have noticed from Peter Green, for example, who is a total master of saying a lot and not playing a lot.
Well, to me, the difference is kind of like, yeah, when you listen to a singer, who sings the notes that are there and doesn't add histrionics to it. My attitude
True.
is just sing the song. There's a time and a place, for all the flashy stuff, if you will. However, too frequently, it's become very overdone.
Oh yeah, that is something that is sometimes when you are in a situation with that, you have to, if you are in a band, if you're in a studio situation, and sometimes you have to guide the people you're playing with. You on the one hand, you want to leave the artistic freedom. I always believe in artistic freedom because I try to give a lot of space on the album, as you notice, for other musicians to play. One of my philosophies in when I'm playing is not to conquer the audience, but to pull them to me. So they always are waiting and expecting more, to leave them hungry, so to speak.
Exactly.
And when you are in a studio situation, sometimes you have to be gentle with them, but musicians and artists tend to be very sensitive, right? Very sensitive.
Yep.
So you have to find the right way to talk to them and explain to them that it's good, but you shouldn't over dramatize the things. Sometimes the simple, smooth things when all the instruments are coming together, because if it's only a singer doing one particular thing, but it's a whole thing. I have a 9-piece band on stage, a whole horn section, B3, bass drum, guitar, sometimes 2 vocalists. It has to somehow rhyme together. It all have to happen.
Exactly. Well, that's just like in life, balance is the key.
Oh yeah. Oh, you got to have balance in it. And I think also when I listen to it, many musicians are self-critical. But again, another trick that I think, well, I learned it the hard way. You always have to pay your dues on the road of the blues. And I think with the time you realize that when you're in a studio, particularly if I'm looking at the album Supergroove, you don't have to do 50 takes. Sometimes the first, the second, the third take, that's the one that is going to make it. It's not getting better because you then fully have the energy and you don't listen to the other 50 takes and trying to influence you and messing you up. To have the confidence, go in, the first, second, the third takes are normally the ones that you're going to keep.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, if you go too many takes, it then sounds rehearsed and though you're imitating yourself, basically.
Exactly. If I'm looking at this album, Supergroove, the guitar parts there is 1 takes. I'm using a Stratocaster on it. Another one, Straight Shooting Woman, the intro and the outro. The outro is actually a long shooting guitar over 1.5 minutes, I think. And the one I can blame for that is Jolie Walker. He told me on my previous album, Blues on Fire, he said, in America, people love electric guitar. So just play your guitar. And that's what I did. And when we did the outro of Straight Shooting Woman, it was the bass, drums, the B3, and my guitar. And we were just playing. And suddenly you have this chemistry in the studio. We looked up and we just felt, now we're going to end it. So we found a way to end it. So everything you hear, there is 1 take. It's not edited. And that's, when you have those moments, you don't want to mess with it. You don't want to start editing. It's 1 take on the guitar. It was just cruising, so we kept it.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, you mentioned Straight Shooting Woman. The video for that is really cool. Where did you shoot the video?
Oh, thanks for asking me that, because a lot of people ask me, Andy, you dedicated this album to Tel Aviv. Why did you do that? Well, I did it because over the past 15 years, I've been bringing some of the best blues artists in America to come up to perform in Israel. Rest in peace, Lucky Peterson twice, Joe Lloyd Walker 3 times already, been on 2 of my albums. Rest in peace, Johnny Winter, Bernard Allison, Rick Astley. As you can hear, Rick Astley on this album, using his AKA name, Coasting Hank. That's what he wanted to be called. That's how he started out. And of course, Kenny Neal, who is co-producing this album. So by bringing this over, I wanted to show that Tel Aviv is actually quite a hip and cool city, and it's safe, and it's a wonderful place to visit and to hear good music. So that's why I dedicated it. That's also where I'm creating my music. And there's a particular neighborhood in Tel Aviv called Florentine, which is pretty much like Williamsburg, I would say, in New York, a hipster's place.
Okay.
And you have all this cool graffiti on the walls. And as you can see, I'm standing quite next to a big rhino on the cover of this album. And there's a lot of alleys there that are full of graffiti. So I thought that would be a very cool place to shoot that video in.
Yeah, I'll tell you that record, one of the things that I like about it is how you bring the horns and keyboards in on the chorus. To where it goes from a straightforward blues rocker, and then all of a sudden it just gets this big explosion of sound.
Right. Thanks for saying that. That was exactly my intention. So it seems that it worked. Intention was to start a bit more rock oriented, and then to go into the bridge by adding this horn section and going in the same. I felt the harmony was just right to do it, vocal wise, music wise. You might say it's a bit Chicago-ish in its way, the band Chicago, that is,
right,
in a way that they're coming up. But somehow it worked. I just felt that it's so right. And that is leading into my guitar solo, which is back to rock and roll, basically.
Yeah, well, I say I like that interplay between the two sounds, if you will. So,
right. I did that on few songs. This is true what you say. Yeah. Building up, waiting, not spitting all the beans in one go, building it up.
Exactly. Well, say you mentioned at the beginning that you wanted the album to be a ride where like you basically you hop in the car and then you get to your destination. And this is one of those songs. It's like you go for a ride. You start out, on a straight road, and then you get to the twisties where you get a lot of S curves, and then you go back to a straight section and back to the S curves and so on.
That's correct. When I visualized the order of the songs, I thought about Supergroove as a way to kick off. Some reviews that had all around the world, I must say the reception we have received so far around the world has been tremendous, and I'm so grateful and thankful for that. I mean, I'm a blues guitarist from Israel. I'm signed with a major blues label in America. That's a big deal for me. So the response has been tremendous. We've been, I think this is the 12th week on the Roots Music Report in America. We are 9th place in UK, so I'm thankful for that. So when we started this, I thought that this would be like a live show. How would I like to do this as a live show, but ending on the cool side while chilling out with Supernatural. And I also visualized the album as driving on a lonely road at night. How I would like the songs to fall in place, which will be a pleasant ride. That's what I thought.
Yeah, well, tell you what, talk about some of the other songs on there. Yeah, you mentioned Rick Estrin earlier. Yeah, he's also on Hand to Mouth, which
yes, it is.
Roy Young does the soulful vocals on that track. Tell us about that one.
Living Hand to Mouth. Rick Estrin visited Israel in end of 2018. We did 3 amazing shows together. We had a great time. We also spent a day in Jerusalem together. And Living Hand to Mouth was such a rock alive. So I said to Rick, listen, let's go into the studio. And I have another song I would love to have some harp on. I said, let's do it. So we went into the studio, recorded Living Hand to Mouth, which is obviously a Rick Estrin song that he also did with Charlie Batty, I think, at that time, and the Nightcats, if I'm not mistaken earlier, but it's also been on another album. It's a song by Rick Astrin, Roy Young doing the vocals. He's a good buddy of mine and performed with me. And we also did Don't Take My Blues Away, which is a song written by me. And we added some nice harp on the outro. But as I mentioned before, he told me, listen, you're going to write Coasting Hank. Everybody knows who that is. Of course, nobody knows that. But it came out. He's a tremendous guy. He's such a force of nature, and he knows to blow the harp, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Roy also sings lead on Pack It Up.
Yes, Roy is a good friend of mine going back 25 years, originally from Jamaica, part of my Blues on Fire show here in Israel, tremendous vocalist. And Pack It Up, it's a song that I choose from Freddie King's 1974 album Burglar. I always been very much influenced by Freddie King. I think he's a tremendous vocalist, singer, band leader, tremendous presence, left us too early, like many other bluesmen. And Pack It Up just fitted the concept of the album. I changed a little bit the horn section, the horn parts, pretty much sticking true, of course, to the lyrics. I didn't try to copy paste any of Freddie's licks. Tried to find my own attitude to the song. I did play Gibson though. I had to do that, and Les Paul. But I think it came out really good.
Yeah, well, the thing that struck me on that one was the funky guitar combined with the jazzy bass line.
Oh yeah, the bass. I have Tom O'Keefe on bass, tremendous bass player, and he's so stable and rock solid. You have to have bass, and I mean the rhythm section is so important that they are solid, not rushing, and they are cool and they are laid back. I always try to tell them it's better that you're coming half a second late than be half a second ahead. Always laid back. Think backwards. Don't think forward. Analog, old school. Think backwards.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, tell you what, speaking of old school, a little while ago, you mentioned the song's got a Chicago feel to it. Have you ever had a chance to go to the Willie Dixon's Blues Museum in Chicago?
No, but this is one of the first things I will do when I come to Chicago, including having one of your famous hot dogs.
Don't forget the deep dish pizza.
Right, exactly.
No, that is a definite must. So much great music, came out of 2120 South Michigan Avenue that, I mean, every time I go past the building, I'm just in awe of the amount of history behind those walls.
It's so much based on America. I mean, this is American music for me. This is such a big thing to have the hype and everything that's being around this album, because this is really, I'm so thankful for being on your program and talking to you, because you're so knowledgeable in America about your music and about the history, it's the heritage, and it's quite amazing.
Well, I mentioned, Willie Dixon. There's some bass lines in your music that you can hear Willie's songs as an influence.
Oh, Willie Dixon is a giant musician. Definitely, he lays down so many tremendous licks. I have a few albums with him. One of my we talked before about, not as a guitarist, maybe as a blues artist, J.B. Lenoir, one of the really amazing blues artists that died too early, 1967. Have some tremendous albums with him and Willie Dixon. He played with everybody. I mean, he really laid down a lot of those traditional bass lines that are used in many songs today, and probably a lot of the stuff that I was doing on the album too.
Yeah, well, the great stuff, the stuff that is time immortal, will always be there, and you'll always hear that influence in the music of people who know the history of the music.
Oh, for sure. You have to understand, if you want to know where you're going and where at the present, you must understand the history and give respect for the guys that really paved the way for it. And if I look at the guitar, it's an instrument. It's more than an instrument. It's a piece of art, and I feel blessed to be able to play it and enjoy it every day. And as some people say that the instruments you're having, you never really own it. You're just a caretaker for future generation, and that's pretty much the way you can look at it of the blues itself. You're the caretaker to preserve it and to move forward with it.
Well, your go-to guitars are the Strat and the Les Paul, correct?
Correct. I am blessed for having some old guitars that found me. You know, the guitar finds you. It's not you finding it. The guitar finds you. And if it's happy with you and you're playing and the way you treat it and play it, it's going to stay with you. And it's going to bless you. It's going to reward you. Because guitar wants to get played. And unfortunately, a lot of the old guitars today, due to the price increase, are today in a tempered environment, smoke-free environment, as an investment, which is okay too. My guitars are played, and I keep them most of the time outside because it inspired me just to look at them. They are so beautiful, and they just want to get played. So I try to play my guitars as often as I can.
Well, to me, guitars are like cars. They're meant to be used.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing is that the more you play them, the more resonant the wood will be, and it will sound better. And my advice to many guitar players asking me about old guitars is, first of all, you try the guitar without plugging it in. If it resonates good, it rings good, it's going to sound amazing when you plug it in to an amplifier, because you can't make a racehorse out of a mule.
Well, yeah, I'm a firm believer that instruments, whether it's guitars, horns, whatever, the more they're played in the history that they have, the more character they have. You know, a brand new piece is wonderful, and everything's got to be new once. However, to me, an older one just seems to, absorb something about everything that it's played.
Absolutely. I think that the old guitar, I can probably, many times I've been touring abroad. I haven't taken my guitars, but sometimes, particularly in Germany today, you're not allowed to bring in Brazilian rosewood to Germany. They will confiscate your guitars, no question asked. So when I've been on tour many times abroad, I've been using new guitars, and it's fine, you can play it. But I'm saying when you want to create music and write music, I like the old guitars because they inspire you to play. It's inspiration. That's the source of your creativity.
Absolutely. Now tell me this: how did you come to name your band the Blues Rebels?
Oh, that was a previous band. It's not a band that I'm using now. Now my show is called Blues on Fire,
Gotcha.
Which is actually the show. That's a previous band. That was another band I used to do different music with. A bit more blues oriented, but I decided I wanted to do a bigger thing. So when I wanted to do a bigger band, I simply integrated a horn section. I integrated a B3 Hammond, and I named my show Blues on Fire. And I did release the album Blues on Fire with Joe Lloyd Walker singing the title track in 2018.
And that album was excellent as well.
Thank you. So, it was a bit different attitude on that song, on that album. But I again thankful for Joel Walker doing such a tremendous work on doing the vocals on the title track Blues on Fire.
Well, you can hear the passion in it, just like you can with Supergroove.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Supergroove. It was a natural follow-up because I wanted to. I had music that I'm writing all the time, and as a matter of fact, since the last show, 11th of March, till today, I have written basically a whole new album. And 2 days ago was the first time I was in the studio to start feeling, touching, starting doing guides to see what instrument I want to do, start touching the music and see how I'm going to put it all together. I'm going to wait with the release, obviously, because at the moment we are promoting Supergroove all around the world at the moment. But I try to use the time, positive thinking during this time, and I think many other musicians have done the same. Fender has never sold so many guitar ever as they have done this year.
Well, one of the things that, we've discussed this on the show in previous episodes is the fact that, with the lockdowns, one of the upsides for musicians, the only upside, if you will, is the fact that technology has allowed people to create, record and produce music, in their own home. And so the creative, light, hasn't been snuffed out by any means.
Oh, this is so true what you say. But as an old schooler, I have to learn, particularly now with all these interviews I've done the last 2 months, which is a good thing. I have learned to use Zoom and other digital. I have not been particularly good with digital digits and other things to do, but you have to learn. You have to realize that you might be an analog person, but you're lost in the digital world. You better catch up and move on, because the world is getting more digital. And if you learn to use it, it will be very helpful, because a lot of these tools will help you to bring your music out when you're not allowed to do live shows, for example.
Now, there's a song for your next album, Lost in the Digital World.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm an analog guy lost in the digital world. That's
there
how
you go. You got the song. Just give me co-write credit.
Yes, no problem at all.
I'll tell you what, getting back to Supergroove, the track Raw, that one just absolutely rocks. Tell us about that track.
Raw is really something. You got to do something that sticks out, and I like to do something you have a gut feeling with things. You can draw up what you want. I don't pre-arrange the whole album thinking I have it all fixed out. I just felt a sudden urge in all this big horn arrangement, Hammond arrangement things. I want to play something raw. I want to play something where you have bass, drums, guitar in your face, if you may say so, straightforward. And I had this 4 minutes of pure adrenaline rush in a rock and roll way of integrating a bit more of a blues rock, I would say. And I also visualized to kick off with a Les Paul. Everything is done with a Marshall on 10, so don't try this at home, in the studio. And the solo I wanted to have with a Stratocaster, but more sliding, not threading solo, a sliding solo that goes with the tempos. It's keeping the ride. It's a song that flows. It just moves on forward for 4 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we were talking before about, blues influences, guitar players. Is there anybody from, say, 50s rock and roll that has been an influence on you as well?
Oh, yeah. Now, one of the greatest guitar player that plays the minimalistic approach and just the timing, Scotty Moore. I mean, he deserved more credit, of course. He was playing them with the biggest, with the king, with Elvis, who took all his inspiration and licks from the blues guys. So I think Scotty Moore is a great example. I'm trying to remember another British rockabilly artist that was also playing Gretsch guitars. I try to remember him. His name slipped away. But I mean, even if you look at what happened to my memory? The one who did Johnny Be Good. What is his name? He plays good blues too, by the way.
Chuck Berry.
I saw it. Chuck Berry, of course. I saw a program with him giving a guitar lesson to Keith Richards how to play the songs, because he said, he said to Keith, I was in prison in America when you guys were taking my songs and making. I thank you for giving me a lot of airtime and making me big here in Europe. But I want to tell you that I was waiting all the time, and one of the first things I want to do when I meet you is to teach you how to play the songs right. That didn't go down well with Keith Richards, as you can imagine.
If I remember right, Keith had actually approached Chuck, before his show, and kind of like came out from him, to him from behind. And when he reached out to touch him, Chuck turned around and decked him, just punched him.
That's true. That's true. He actually can add to his tribute as being long lived. You think that if ever will be a nuclear explosion, he's one of the few guys that will survive. That's what it said. But that's true. I read that too. That he put it to his list of fame to be knocked down by Chuck Berry. That's true.
Now, besides Hendrix in the '60s, who's somebody that you and obviously Peter Green, besides those two guys, who in the '60s is a big influence for you?
Oh, Clapton. I think Clapton, because I like Clapton when he plays Les Paul and the 335s and the SGs. I like him in Cream because of the attitude he had. He got so taken up and scared of the media around it. So when he went in and played with Blind Faith, he didn't want to sing. He didn't want even to say a word in the microphone. He wanted to stand in the back playing a Firebird. Gibson Firebird has one microphone, and they turned the volume down. He wanted to go as back as he could after being on the front, of course, with the Cream. So I like Clapton in the Cream area. I think he did some amazing stuff. Of course, the Beano album with John Mayall, that's a lesson how you can take a combo amp, put it on 10, take a Gibson Les Paul, and just play.
Yeah, you definitely can't go wrong with any of that. Now, somebody that you got to play with was Johnny Winter. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Oh, he came to Israel, and Paul Nelson did such an amazing job and bringing him and put him together. He was here a year before he died. He was frail, but his playing was sharp. We spent a whole afternoon in Tel Aviv together and went up to Jerusalem. But it's a cherished memory to have an afternoon with him in Tel Aviv, where he blessed my Les Paul with Lifetime Mojo. A tremendous person. And when he was up in Jerusalem, he met a group of soldiers, and they told him, "Listen to me, fellas. Don't worry, Israel. Johnny Winter is behind you." And I said, "You know what? I like that."
You definitely could do worse.
Yes, you could do worse. Yes, for sure.
Well, tell you what, getting back to Supergroove, Don't You Let Me Down. Tell us about that track.
Oh, Don't You Let Me Down is another singer that I'm using here in Israel. His name is Danny Shushan. He's a great singer. He was quite famous. He was in a band called the Churchill, and Queen at that time in London, they opened up for his band in London, and that's quite cool. He had Freddie Mercury opening for him in London, and I do have a picture of him that I had in Blues on Fire in the booklet with Danny Shushan and Hendrix in Hamburg, 1967. That's a pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say
a pretty cool picture. That was before Monterey, so he was just in London, trying to do. They were in the same lineup for a show in Hamburg, 1967. So the song "Don't You Let Me Down" is from a band called Jericho from Israel. It's very psychedelic. I liked it. I redone it. I love the vocals entrance, and it's a bit different. It's this psychedelic blues rock that I really like to, if I found something suitable to add to the album to just widen the perception of the music as such. It's a great track. I loved it, and we redid it a little bit by adding the horn section and adding a different attitude of guitars. But I'm very thrilled to have Danny Susanna as the original singer of this track from 1972.
Yeah, well, you definitely gave it a funky twist.
Yeah, that's what jazz. That's true. That's what we wanted to do. A bit different, you know. Don't copy paste. A bit different. Make a different vibe.
Exactly. Well, tell you what, you mentioned before that the album closes, with Peter Green's Supernatural. Tell us about that one.
Oh, Peter Green has been such a tremendous influence in me and attitude. I wouldn't say, sure, you try to listen and copy in beginning when you started with guitar to see how they play Black Magic Woman. Many people don't know that Peter Green actually wrote Black Magic Woman and of course inspired Santana. Obviously, that was really kicking off his career, I would say, somehow. One of the songs, of course. But Peter Green, again, minimalistic sound, attitude, inner peace, some very introvert music sometimes. And Supernatural, it was a challenge to take on because it's quite an introvert song. You have to be in the groove. You have to be in the zone when you go into the studio and play. And I felt that day when we went in that I was just in the zone to do it. I brought my 1966 4500 Marshall. I put it on 10 to get the sustain. I kept my old Les Paul with the PAFs, the humbuckers in the right angle, sort of 45, not too far away, to keep the sound clean and still get that long, haunting, sustained notes, because that's so integral. You must play those notes to do the right tribute to the song.
Right.
But to change it, I added trumpet and I added a B3 Hammond to give some space to it.
Yeah, well, once again, you succeeded.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a very emotional. That's the most emotional piece of the album that you have to play to make it right, you know. So yeah, that was and he died just when we finished recording it, you know.
Well, yeah. Say, as I said before, you can hear the passion, and the fact that it's an emotional piece bears that out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's an amazing, tremendous piece of music. And don't forget, this was done in 1967 on the album with John Mayall, Hard Road. That's some time ago, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know, not that long ago.
I know that's true. Everything's relative. It's all a flat. It's all a flat. Time is just a number.
It's younger than I am, so it can't be that long ago.
It's just a number.
Well, tell you what, we've talked about, older artists. What do you find yourself listening to today?
Oh, I'm listening. Actually, I recently I love vinyls, so I got a single album that was released retroactively from Alan Wilson from the Canned Heat. He is another guy that was such tremendous influence, relaxed, laid back, minimalistic, and listening to his solo album, that was just amazing. He did some amazing music that was released now, not long ago on a new album. I've been listening to that, and that led me back to one of really classic blues albums to listen because of that album. Listen again to Hooker and Heat, that triple album with Alan Wilson following John Lee Hooker, and he doesn't know how he can do it. It's a classic album.
Well, once again, you can't go wrong with John Lee Hooker.
No, you just can't do that.
And you mentioned about doing the most with less. Stick to the notes.
Yes.
You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who did more with less than John Lee Hooker.
Oh man, he has touched the guitar, get into the mood. He can stay on that guitar for that chord for 1 hour. Doesn't matter. It's just going there, man. It's just right. He got the groove, man. He got the groove. He doesn't rush it. That's the secret when you play. Don't rush it. Lay back. Just let the music flow.
I was just gonna say that. Just let it flow.
Let it flow. So, don't rush it. You can't rush music. You can't rush love. You can't rush nothing. You just have to let things take the time.
There you go.
But it takes time to get there. Course. Yes. Go with the flow. Go with the flow.
Exactly. Well, tell you what, as far as our natural course, we're actually past our usual run time here, Andy. So we'll have
I'm
to
sorry speaking so much. I'm sorry speaking so
No,
much.
no. As I tell everybody, we almost always run long.
That's how it is, you know. It's
Well,
hard to get guitarists to stop, you know that.
Well, you know what? The whole point of the show is for viewers to see two people who simply love music, talk about it, and hopefully they will see the passion that we have for it. So,
Oh, yeah.
And what you're as passionate about music is what we are. Of course, you're going to talk for a long time.
Obviously, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to speak to you. And if anybody wants to listen to the album, Wistone, my label, and Boga have been so kind to set up a link that you can listen to the album. And if you like it and you want to download it, you have Spotify, I think you have Amazon, and you have Apple, all these digital applications, and you can order CDs. All this you can do if you go to my website, which is www.andywattsguitarslinger.com. There you have the link. And you have some cool videos too.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we've been running both your website and your Facebook page across the bottom of the screen throughout the show. So
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I thank you for that. I didn't see that. Thank you.
From your side, it's very small, very hard to read.
Thank you.
But it's there. And,
Thank
and when the show gets posted, we will definitely link to everything for you as well. So until then, I want to thank everybody for watching. Andy, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Music Night at the Majestic.
Thank you so much for having me again.
All right. And with that, everybody, make sure you go to Andy Watts, guitarslinger.com. And you can also find him on Facebook at Andy Watts, Guitar Slinger as well. So until then, everybody, have a good night. Andy, same to you.
Thanks so much. Good night.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.